with. We also had 2 other Mardu decks in the top 8. All 3 Mardu decks in the top 8, very different. So if you're a Mardu fan like Patrick and I are, definitely take a look.
Yep, if you like a Planeswalker build, you can go back and see the deck that Andy defeated in the quarterfinals. If you like a more classic mid-range build, well, that's available for you too. And if you like to beat down, well, Andy Ferguson here in the finals.
So both players shuffling up and getting ready for the first game of our finals. Looking forward to it.
Me too.
We've also got a Modern Premier IQ as well. I know Jeff Hugan will be battling in that, likely with Blue-Red Delver over there. He's looking to get some more Open Series points as the chase is certainly on. We'll be taking a look at our Season 4 leaderboard later today as these players have driven quite a bit. You know, Anthony Lowry from the Jersey area. We've got Andrew Boswell from Sugarloaf, New York.
I think Anthony Lowry is a New York City kid.
Yeah, I think he lives in the Bronx actually. Yeah. Right around that area. I mean, it's no short drive no matter where it is over there.
Right. I just, Jersey kid, I know that New York City and New Jersey are close to one another, but they're effectively different planets culturally, so it's important to have that distinction.
You guys have a real grudge against each other, don't you?
No, it's not a grudge necessarily. I mean, sometimes it manifests that way, but it's more about these are just very different places and cultures and all that.
I just kind of screw them both together. It's just trash.
I think that Anthony would probably balk at being called a Jersey kid in the same way that I balked at being called from the New York area. So, it's the same thing.
Gotcha. I'm glad we have that clarification. That is important.
It is important. Wizards coverage really like to use New York area Magic player when they used to talk about Osip Lobodovich and John Finkel winning Pro Tours. It's like, no, they're from New Jersey. Sliver kids, too.
That's true. Are they Jersey guys?
Yes.
Okay. Jersey does all right, Magic. Gotta say.
But when they're talking about one of us being weird or self-aggrandizing, suddenly we're from New Jersey. It's just not fair.
It's a Bloodsoaked champion to start things off here in our finals off Mana Confluence. Ferguson is down to 19. So Rubin's going to take some points of damage here. You do see the Sandstorm Citadel for him, so he's getting his mana fixed. It'll take 2 right now. There is a Temple. Take a look at the top card. That's going to stay. And another Bloodsoaked champion. Well, then.
I feel like I've just recouped 12 cents of value based on this opening.
Congratulations to you.
MTG Finance.
Well, here's Thoughtseize. Yikes. Magma Jet, Stoke the Flames, Lightning Strike, and a Mana Confluence.
Ooh. This is quite the opening here from Andy.
He is not messing around.
But it's sweet because this is what his deck is constructed to do. The removal spells are all burn spells, and he's playing with Bloodsoaked champion. These are the draws he gets to have now.
He'll draw a card. He'll attack for 4. Rubin's already down to 12. It's a 3rd turn of the game. There's a Mana Confluence. Ferguson will pass the turn back. Rubin gonna draw a card. Does he have a card like Corsair Crewfix to slow things down?
Well, removal spells are not going to be a help here.
Yeah.
So it has to be blockers.
Well, there's Corsair. Take a look at the top card. It's copy of Sylvan Caryatid. We're going back Ferguson's way. Magma Jet's going upstairs. Time to scry. A Swamp, and I believe a Stoke.
And Stoke is a great draw here.
One on top, one on the bottom. Ferguson will untap. It's time to draw. Looks like he picked up his Stoke. With the Stoke, do you like killing the Corsair here?
I would take care of the Corsair. He still gets to attack for 2. And I just wouldn't want to get too fancy here because the Corsair is a roadblock right now. And the alternative that Andy has is to attack and rebuy the Bloodsoaked champion that gets blocked. And then he starts getting jammed with cards in hand. So this is the most efficient thing. Andy's hand's so good that I'm just trying to end the game quickly.
Well, there's your attack for 2. Puts you down to 8. You just have to be a little bit concerned if a Siege Rhino is going to show up to the party or not. There's a Sorin there in Rubin's hand.
Now, interesting enough, Andy just decided to scry a land to the bottom, which makes sense in the abstract. He's got his mana to work with. But with 2 lightning strikes left over in hand, maybe there's an argument for keeping the land on top, because if all he has this turn is a blocker, well then the attack plus land and 2 lightning strikes finishes the game. It's risky because if Steve has Siege Rhino, you just want as much gas as possible because you can no longer kill him. So it's not a straightforward play, but
Caryatid, plains, pass it is what Rubin will do. Ferguson is going to draw a card. Bloodstained Mire is what he's found.
yeah, if you're just going to rip the land anyway, then all is well in the world.
Absolutely. It's time to attack. Beatdowns, block. Put you to 6. Get a land. There's a strike. Put you to 3. Sacrifice this. Show me a strike. That's going to do it. Andy Ferguson up a game here over Steve Rubin. Blood-soaked champion, looking very impressive here in the finals.
That was the opening, you know. I think if Andy's on the draw, much harder for that to happen. But on the play, that's what his deck is capable of doing.
Trivia time. Rules, question.
Cedric over here, he's going to ask you a question. You will tweet your answer at SCG Live and hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, one will be selected at random for a full year of Star City Games premium content. Keep in mind that's about accuracy and not speed, so don't worry about submitting your answer first, just accurately. And please bear in mind, this giveaway is run at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com, and the Twitch TV is in no way affiliated with giveaways or contests on its stream.
There's a third man in the booth at Grand Prix, New Jersey. Be me, you, and a mystery man. Likes to wear a hat. Use his Twitter handle if you want, but name the third person that will be joining us in the booth. Though extra credit is important.
Right, because he's still, I would guess he's still asleep.
Easily asleep, yeah.
So using his Twitter handle is extra credit.
So Patrick and I will be joined by a third person in the booth at Grand Prix, New Jersey. Name that person. Make sure you use the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're following SCG Live, and we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our final round, which Andy Ferguson is up a game, and it was not a very close one.
Yeah. What time is it? It's beat down o'clock.
Yeah. It's a great time of the day.
That was an impressive win right there. Steve was not able to get off the ground whatsoever.
Yeah. We'll take a look at the sideboards now as we do head back to the match, and we will see that Steve Rubin does have 3 copies of Bile Blight, and Erase, a Murderous Cut, and Unravel the Aether, a Liliana Vest, 2 Nissa World Waker, 3 Drown in Sorrow, 2 Dune Blast, and a Glare of Heresy.
Well, I think the 3 copies of Bile Blight are the easiest inclusions here. When you get past that, you know, some of these cards get a little bit more suspicious. I think the Drown in Sorrows are good here because Andy's creature base is Bloodstone Champion, Goblin Route Master, and Brain Maggot. That's a lot of targets for Drown in Sorrow, so I think those can come in here as well. I like the additional removal spells as well. You know, something like Murderous Cut seems like an easy addition. I do not believe this is a Dune Blast matchup, however. Andy's a little too fast.
3 Hushwing Griff, 2 Suspension Field, 2 Erase, 3 Magma Spray, an Erebos God of the Dead, 2 Anger of the Gods, and 2 Harnessed by Force for Ferguson.
Well, he can only go so far down the removal path because he needs to be able to still maintain his aggression. So I do like the Suspension Fields in this matchup. Steve's got a lot of big targets. The 3 copies of Hushwing Griff seem excellent. He needs more creatures anyway. Plus, it shuts down things like Siege Rhino and Wingmate Rock. I don't know if he wants Harnessed by Force. It feels like it's probably fine in the matchup, but I don't know if this is exactly the matchup he wants it for.
Well, I think if you do want it, you want it when you're on the play, not when you're on the draw.
Yeah, Harnessed by Force to me is borderline, and I definitely like Suspension Field and Hushwing Griff.
Yeah, I like those options as well.
Yeah.
Some pretty solid options. I think for Ferguson, it's all about just kind of what he did in the last game, which is get the party started early with a Bloodsoaked champion and see where things go.
And as good as the burn spells were for him game 1, I would want to get away from it to some extent in games 2 and 3. Just doesn't kill very much of Steve's creature base. And so the burn spells are only going to be good when Andy's draw is really explosive and they can use them as lava spikes, which is exactly what you saw in game 1. But post-board, when Steve has more removal, and particularly in the games where Steve's going to be on the play, it's going to be much harder for Andy to get that all set up. So cards like Magma Jet and Lightning Strike, I think, are easy to remove. Stoke the Flames is high impact. It also kills Courser Krufix, so I wouldn't want to touch that. But the lower impact burn spells, I think Andy would be best served putting in the sideboard for games 2 and 3.
I think certainly will change in the sideboarded games. We'll see how both players do sideboard here as they are just about ready for game number 2. Steve Rubin will be on the play. Standard Open champion earlier this year in Washington, D.C., looking for a second title for Ferguson. It'll be his first. We'll see if he can get it. See, Rubin has at least 1 copy of Sylvan Caryatid. It actually looks like there might be 2 there. The problem here, so he might only have 1 land. Not entirely sure. Don't have a great look at things, but now it looks like he is keeping. So it's on Ferguson here.
And I think Ferguson's land hand is awfully land heavy. I think we're looking at Thoughtseize, Harnessed by Force, Hushwing Griff lands, which is, I would imagine, good enough to keep, although not a great hand.
I wouldn't be excited as there's a copy of Llanowar Way. So the green source is there. You can see the Caves of Koilos in Rubin's hand. So he's got the mana and he has the acceleration. It's a Bloodstained Mire. This is a Thoughtseize. And Rubin will place his grip on the table. We'll see exactly what he does have here. Sylvan Caryatid among the crew. Also Caves, another Caryatid, Murder's Cut, a Courser, and a Wingmate Rock. Pretty good hand there for Steve.
Very solid hand. To me, the most powerful card in this hand is Courser Crufix. I know that Andy has Stoke the Flames, so maybe he's happy with Steve keeping it. But to me, it just stands out as the best card in the hand. Steve needs mana. He needs threat card. Murderous Cut he's really far away from doing anything with. He needs a enabler for raid for the Wingmate Rock in his hand. Courser just seems like the superstar of this hand. If there's only one Caryatid, I can see trying to go out for his mana, but with two, you can't really cut him off.
Well, Ferguson going to take a moment, consult his grip. We'll see what he does decide with the Thoughtseize. I'm going to go with the Courser.
Like it a lot.
Rubin will draw a card here. Sandstep Citadel. He'll take one to play Sylvan Caryatid before passing the turn back over to Ferguson. Ferguson will draw a card. Didn't get a great look. Look like he made another copy of Hushwing Griff. He'll play a Nomad Outpost before passing the turn back over to Rubin. He'll draw a copy of Bile Blight. Play the Citadel. Here is the second Caryatid. We're going back Ferguson's way. Ferguson will draw. Caves, kick it, over to Steve. Well, there's a backup Courser. It's not a bad draw there for Rubin.
It's a great draw.
Take a look at the top card now. Top card, another copy of Bile Blight, and there's a Hushwing Griff. Yeah, Steve says that's fine. So we'll go back Andy's way. Andy will draw. It's time for the beatdowns in the air. Steve's going to take one to cast a Bile Blight here. Keep that thing off the table. He's got big plans with his Wingmate Rock after all.
I think Andy needs to shoot down this Courser of Crufix pronto if he can. He knows there's a Wingmate Rock. And Steve finding mana and life. It's all bad stuff.
Yeah, he's armed with that knowledge. There's a mountain. Now, for what it's worth, I do like getting it in the draw step if he has an instant speed removal spell. You get the information about what the next draw is going to be.
Yep.
You don't get punished by an attack or the opponent getting the opportunity to put a land into play. So you get to glean a little bit of information and pass the turn back.
Please make your way to the pairing board.
And it looks like that will be in the draw step. Top card is in the Johnny Mentor of Heroes.
Player meeting are up.
So there goes the Courser.
They are on.
But this is still not a bad spot for Steve to be in. He's got an Ajandi coming, which will give him some power. He's got a lot of removal in hand. And Andy's got nothing going on.
And Johnny going to go into hiding. His Courser is no longer on the table. I do wonder if he just wants to cast the Winging Rock just as a 3/4 here. It's not all that exciting, but
I mean, Steve is so far away from being able to attack that, you know, what else is going on?
it's really just kind of it's better than nothing situation,
Yeah.
I think. Temple, top card, bottom card now. And pass the turn back. Will Ferguson over to Rubin.
Modern players.
The draw, of course, is a Johnny. Here's an attack. 3 damage will be dealt. Ferguson's going to go down to 14. And now the Mentor of Heroes will join the party. Elevator only goes up. As Rubin will take a look at the top couple of cards here. A Wingmate Rock among them. There's also a copy of Bramaz. He'll take the rock, put the rest to the bottom, and that'll be the turn. Ferguson going to play a copy of Hushwing Griff. Time to draw. Found a copy of Butcher the Horde.
And you can see why it's so important for Andy to get out on the front foot, because once we get to this kind of stage of the game, I'm not saying things are hopeless for Andy, but Steve just has so much more power in his deck.
I mean, this is exactly where Abazan wants to be.
Yeah.
Numbers, they are incorrect. They will be corrected.
Now, an adorable little combo here is Harnessed by Force with Butcher the Horde.
That is a nice synergy.
Yeah. One thing we may have overlooked a little bit here.
Well, the Butcher just came off the top.
Yep.
But the problem is that Andy is aware that there's Murderous Cut in Steve's hand, and so it's going to be hard to set all that up because he can't do it all in one turn, at least this turn. And going forward, Steve's probably going to be able to hold up Murderous Cut mana the whole way through.
There's a Nomad Outpost. This is an attack to Johnny. It's down to 3. I'm just going to pass the turn back. Looks like he's trying to set up Butcher plus Harness in one turn.
Yeah, it does look like the plan here. It's just going to be a challenge to get that set up. It may be a long ball, but it also might be his only shot to get back in the game. He may be so far behind now that he has to hope something like that breaks for him.
Top couple of cards, 2 Rhinos and a Courser in there. Yikes. That's scary stuff.
Well, fortunately for Andy, Steve only gets one of them.
True.
Unfortunately for Andy, I don't think he can beat one of them. So there's some give and there's some take.
And not the way his hand is lined up. It's a little ugly. Gotta take the Courser. In comes the Rock. Ferguson down to 11. Is it time for the backup Rock? Looks like he may go coursing instead.
I think Steve has sniffed out that something's up here and just wants to leave up Murderous Cut mana.
Yeah. Top card. Temple. That's coming in. Trigger. Take a look at the top card now. Abzan Charm. Boy, it's hard to pass that one up. That card does everything. A real doozy.
Yeah, and it looks like Steve says that's fine.
Back to Ferguson, we're going to go. I suppose, Wingmate Rock in this particular instance, because Hushman Griff is in play, it's not great. You're not going to get the token, of course, so.
And I think Steve is so far ahead that just err on the side of caution. Just leave up your removal spells. Up 21 to 11 with a substantially better board. And playing a deck where your draw step is so much better than your opponent's draw step once you're in this stage of the game.
Mm-hmm. He's also at 21.
Yeah, he's ahead in every facet of the game, so you can afford to be a little cautious and just make sure nothing too bad happens.
Urborg coming on down. And Ferguson does have Butcher the Horde plus Harnessed by Force in hand. A nice little combo there.
But he's also aware of the Murderous Cut.
Yep.
So,
well, in that situation, you can still get some value. I mean, it's not great. You harness first and then you play the Butcher. It's not the best thing in the world to do, but it is something. I'm not excited about it. And he's going to untap his mana. Yeah, he's going to harness force now. He's going to harness first, excuse me.
Attention modern players, new seatings for the seat hall are being posted now.
Again, you're not thrilled, but
Your seat number
you'll
does
take it.
not start above at least table 100.
Yep.
Your pairings board has not been updated yet. Please wait for the judge.
Now there's the Butcher. I think we'll have a response here. Yeah, Bile-Blight the Hushman Griff. It's a little surprising.
not real. I like this play a lot because it's like, okay, kill my Ajani if you want to, or deal me a bunch of damage. It doesn't really matter. And he has the Courser as an eligible attacker next turn, plus the Waymate Rock left over.
Yep. So he's doing just fine.
And the ability to just kill this Butcher now with 1 mana, so.
Liliana Vest, the top card.
It looks a little weird, but Steve, again, is so saturated with resources that these kind of exchanges don't really matter that much. You can afford them.
Yeah, it seems like that's a big victory for Ferguson, but in reality, it's really nothing.
it was a good turn, but Steve is so far ahead that he can allow Andy to have a good turn, and
Sure.
it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, the ability to cast Murderous Cut on the Butcher and play the Rock if he'd like makes it all pretty good, but we'll see what Steve decides here on this turn. He's definitely gotten creative with some lines. He's just going to Abzan Charm that. Attack here for 2. Play Sands of Citadel, gain a life.
Yeah, Steve has often eschewed the straightforward play in lieu of doing something a little bit strange, but only in spots where he's either so far ahead or so far behind that he's trying to protect himself from disaster or trying to maximize his chances of winning a hopeless game.
Yep. I mean,
Which is a sign of great play. Sign of great play. He's not just playing ABC Magic.
Stoke the Flames right now in Ferguson's hand.
You know, for example, with a Liliana on top of his deck, what's his rush to deploy the Wingmate Rock? Even if Andy is able to kill this Courser and keep him off of raid, all right, well, Liliana plus it, get the last card in your hand, and so on and so forth.
There's a Stoke in the draw step. Courser down. Saw Windswept do the top card, but now here is Liliana. That's going to go down. Steve will tutor for something. Seems like he has something in mind. That's not a bad choice. Elspeth is oftentimes a game winner.
Yep.
So that's exactly what Rubin will search for. Is the Sun's champion. It's a Planeswalker party.
And still has the Murderous Cut left over in all of this. So
And the Rock.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Back to Ferguson. You see, he's got to be the aggressor in the matchups he plays. Now this is a start. Stormbreath Dragon's going to take care of Liliana, or at least we thought, but Murderous Cut will clear that up. So he's protected around that as well. Steve will very quickly untap, tick Liliana up, get the last card out of hand.
There's another Stormbreath.
Now there's Elspeth. 3 soldier tokens coming into play. And he's got him in the headlock now.
Modern players, and welcome to Columbus, Ohio.
3, 4. Butcher was the draw, but Elspeth cleans that up so cleanly.
But he can't keep it in his hand because Liliana makes him discard it.
Yeah.
So
My name is Ryan Hoffman.
he's in the squeeze.
Yep.
I am an organized player representative for Star City Games. Right now, I'd like you to make sure that the wave
Elevator goes down on Elspeth. An attack for 3 here.
has been signed.
Rubin just closing things out now.
Not have a
There's carry added. Getting ready to tap for some mana potentially. But we can just go with the Rock instead. Trigger raid. And that is going to do it. Steve Rubin's going to tie things up here against Andy Ferguson. I was on mid-range and Mardu aggro. Headed to game number 3.
And that was, those 2 games are the strengths of both decks on full display.
Yep.
Andy getting on top and never letting up. Steve dying with 6 cards in his hand or something like that. And then game 2 where Andy's draw was not aggressive. Steve was able to easily blunt the offense that Andy cobbled together and easily overpowered Andy once they got into the late game.
Well, both players going to go back to the drawing boards here, it looks like. Maybe change things. Ferguson already going through his sideboard. Rubin taking a look at what Andy has available to him. But if games go that way, you know, the longer we go, I think the worse things get for Ferguson. So being on the play for game number 3 is very important. And as we saw in an earlier match from Andy yesterday, it's all about the Bloodstone champion and getting started that way.
It wouldn't surprise me if Andy sideboards way differently on the play versus on the draw. I could see Bloodstone Champion, as much as we've been talking about it, as much as it's the defining feature of Andy's deck, being sided out when he's on the draw. Because the odds that it's connecting against Caryatids and Coursers is so unlikely. Whereas on the play, I definitely want the card. Because if you have it in your opening hand, it's guaranteed 2. And likely to be 4, because Steve will often just be playing lands that come into play tapped and so forth. So this feels like a matchup where there's going to be heavy sideboarding involved depending on player draw. And Hushwing Griff is another card where I feel when he's on the draw, it's very likely, you know, he's going to want to have this card to react to Siege Rhinos and Wingmate Rocks. But on the play, maybe Andy just wants to be as aggressive as possible. And doesn't he want to mess around with something like Wingmate Rock? I don't know. But it does feel like his sideboard and his main deck gives him a lot of room for significant modifications in this particular matchup.
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Well, Ferguson is happy with his configuration. Rubin going to take a moment.
It is my pleasure.
Make sure he's happy with what he's got ready. Our Legacy Open is, well, just about through round number 1. Again, 256 players, so 9 rounds of action there. We'll probably be joining that, I believe, in round number 5 later today for you guys. When we do come back, we'll, of course, look at our players to watch the board, see where players do stand, figure out what decks people are playing. I think Brad Nelson has selected Blue-Red Delver this weekend, I believe. Todd Anderson, Sneak and Show. Tom Ross, well, we know what Tom's playing.
So Sneak and Show is a great example of a deck that might actually get better in the face of Treasure Cruise.
Yeah.
Because people have to cut action, and Sneak and Show can win so quickly that you're going to die with Treasure Cruise in your hand.
Legacy players who want to play along, but modern players, pay attention to me. I know it's hard to look at me.
Could be some brews as well. We'll see.
Oh, there's always brews.
I hope so. I saw Dredge win last week when we were in Oakland. We'll see maybe perhaps a repeat performance.
Especially with Nick Miller in the house, man. He flags down the brews.
That's true. He's on top of it.
He'll find the brews.
If you got some spice, like a soldier's deck, find it.
I know. I'm still heartbroken over that match a couple weeks
Tough
ago.
to watch. Tough to watch. It's easy doing with miracles, okay?
Had bad guy counterbalance on the ropes.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 60 seconds of my 3 minutes to review your deck list.
It is showtime.
This is the easiest way to get a game lost.
Ferguson, looks
Don't
like
get
he
a
may
game
keep.
lost. Review your checklist.
Rubin.
While you're doing that, please write
Aha, there it is.
There we go.
That's how you got to get it started. It worked for Andy in game number 1. We'll see if it works here in game number 3. Rubin going to play a Temple of Malady.
And Andy's hand's no joke here. I think he has turn 2 Thoughtseize tapped land at turn 3 Rabble Master.
It's a good hand. Ferguson going to draw a card.
Or turn 2 Thoughtseize, you know, whichever.
First things first, let's get in for 2. Thoughtseize you.
Modern players.
See the grip. You can see there's a Temple of Malady over there. Temple of Silence, a Bile Blight, a Hero's Downfall, Murderous Cut. Removal heavy hand here for Rubin.
Feels like the selection most likely will be Bile Blight in that instance. If Andy can free up any sort of value for the Rabble Master, that's the way to go.
I see Ferguson's going to write the cards down.
All right, judges. At this time, please begin collecting deck lists.
Decisions.
Players, sit tight. We got more to talk about.
Now, I don't know if Andy can necessarily fire off these Thoughtseizes back-to-back this turn, because he may need a Bloodstone Mire to find red mana for him.
Which translates to 8 wonderful rounds of Swiss.
There's the Bloodstained Mire there.
Today's event will be at competitive
The
RES.
selection there was a Bile Blight with a Thoughtseize, so back Rubin's way we're going to go. There's a Forest. Sylvan Carry added right off the top. Timely there for Steve.
You play in top
Ferguson will draw.
goes first. Tardy today is at 0.
It's a Nomad Outpost.
You need to be in your seats at the beginning of each round.
This is a Thoughtseize. We'll see a handful of removal again. Bile Blight, Hero's Downfall, Murderous Cut, couple of lands.
Conversations with your opponent. God forbid you learn someone's name. This communication.
Most likely Murderous Cut at this point. I mean, with the second Thoughtseize is getting to be so efficient.
There goes the Blight. Time to sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire. So the land he wants to search. I'm going to go with a Swamp.
So if he has a backup Bloodstone Champion, then taking the Wild Blight here is fine.
It looks like it's another copy of Thoughtseize. See Rubin's hand
it's
again on the table.
Yeah, no, okay.
Perhaps. Maybe he's just down. We'll see. Yep. I'm going to take another card. Downfall or Cut? Which will it be? There goes the Cut. And it's a passing of the turn.
All right, modern players, if you have turned in your deck list.
Temple of Silence. Top card
Go to the
to the bottom. Mystery card coming for Rubin next turn. Ferguson will draw.
Today you will be on the pink
It's a Brain Maggot.
Well, Brain Maggot's great here.
Yeah.
It does allow him to get the removal spell to hand. He needs to free up the Scrabble Master. That's the big prize in all of this. So,
Rubin thought about casting Hero's Downfall. Now he might not at all.
well, if he has Drowning Sorrows in his deck, it's pretty juicy to let this thing in play.
Now, Steve doesn't know the top card. He scryed it with Temple of Silence, put it to the bottom. Now he says, okay, you can have my Hero's Downfall. I thought about casting it. Now I won't. No attacks, of course. So Rubin will draw a card. Windswept Heath. Temple of Malady is going to come into play. That's going to go to the bottom as well. Back Andy's way, we're going to go.
Now Andy's got his opening to finally get back on the defensive.
Rabble Master is coming in. Time for a Goblin token. Now, you mentioned Drowning Sorrow. We'll see if Steve does find one, because if he does, it's going to be quite the backbreaker. In, and in. Going to block the Bloodstone Champion. 2 damage going to come across.
But keep in mind that Andy has a suspension field in hand, so he's got answers to things like a Siege Rhino or a Courser. Most of Steve's eligible blockers are not going to be much help. I believe that is Drowning Sorrow.
You are correct. That's what we like to call a whammy.
That is a whammy.
All your creatures are dying. Steve Rubin is scrying. And you can have this Hero's Downfall back. What a timely top deck for Steve.
The scry one on that card is such a rub-in, too.
It really is.
All your guys are dead. Also, hold on 1 second.
There's a backup Rabble Master. But that is going to die to a Hero's Downfall, I have a feeling. You see Rubin pump the brakes there on Ferguson. Says, I have mana available to cast this. Do I want to kill this? It looks like the answer is yes. Windswept Heath will be sacrificed. See if he's going to search up a Plains or a Forest. He will go with the Plains.
And now I think all the wind is out of Andy's sails. The last cards in hand are purely reactive, a Lightning Strike and a Suspension Field.
It's card for card battle now. See who draws better. Ferguson going to draw. Another Suspension Field. He's a little too reactive now.
Yep.
That's a moo cow.
I mean, fortunately, you know, Andy can get it off the table.
Yep, does have an answer. And if he can find a creature, then he can start to work back with Bloodstone Champion and all that stuff. Lightning Strike the draw. There's a Suspension Field to take care of the Rhino.
Yeah, he still can have hope that Steve floods out here, you know?
How about another Rhino? Down to 4.
They're not in the deck to not draw, you know?
You're not wrong. Swamp. I think Suspension Field number 2 has to be what's cast. Yep. Rubin, drawing. Play a Citadel. Pass it. Ferguson. Drawing.
I think that's Storm Breath Dragon.
Yep. Needs a land for that one. Rhino, you're at 1. Rubin gonna gain more life. Ferguson can't cast the second Lightning Strike in his hand, which is a little awkward. He's got 2. He's only got 1 red source of mana. Also, he can't deal himself any damage anymore because he's at 1.
Yeah, he can put a Storm Breath on defense.
Yep, well, he drew Mountain.
Yeah, Storm Breath on defense this turn.
Yes. I mean,
Hopefully, Steve draws nothing but lands for the rest of the game. You untap, you Lightning Strike it twice.
yeah, I mean, there's a real question of if you're supposed to double strike this Rhino or if you're just supposed to play Storm Breath. Because Storm Breath is open to removal spell.
Sure. I don't think it matters too much at the scheme of things because I think Andy's on the I can't beat anything for the rest of the game kind of mentality.
Okay.
If the next 5 cards he draws are lands and Caryatids, I have a shot.
Well, there's double strike. So see you later. Rubin going to draw a card. Land War Waste. Pass the turn
That's
back.
land number 1.
It's going to need quite a few more. But there's a dragon. Into the red zone we go.
Andy just drew a Crackling Doom.
What's the draw? It may have been Elspeth? Yes? It is interesting to see how Rubin will opt to use this Elspeth. 3 soldiers is very safe.
Yes.
But will he tick down?
Well, Andy drew Crackling Doom, so if he ticked down,
He's hoping he ticks down.
ticking up is a death sentence. It's not intuitive. You're so used in this spot to just, yeah, I'll kill you, Storm Breath Dragon, life goes on. But
Interesting. He's going to give it some thought. And some serious thought now from Rubin.
Modern players, please make your way to your seats. Also, if you are at your seat and do not have the
Very
ball yet,
interesting
please
decision.
raise your
for sure.
hand. Help them find you.
Yep, it's going up. 3 soldiers coming. past the turn back. Ferguson will draw. Didn't get a great look.
I believe it was Stoke.
That's not what the doctor ordered. And that is an extension of the hand. Steve Rubin is our Standard Open champion here in Columbus, Ohio. His second Standard Open championship in about 3 months.
Well deserved too. Extremely well played. He was impressive the entire day and yesterday and today on camera, and building a real resume for himself.